I never believed in ghost stories. Things like Pontianak, the ghost of a long-haired woman crying in the middle of the night. I thought they were just products of imagination passed down from generation to generation in remote rural areas. Until I was forced to go to Kampung Sungai Merah village, a small village deep in the forest in Malaysia, to take care of the funeral of my recently deceased aunt. The old wooden house was nestled among dense trees. The air here was heavy, humid, and had a musty smell of damp soil, mixed with something slightly sweet and faint. I thought it was the smell of incense until a neighbor looked at me and asked, "Do you smell jasmine?" I nodded, and she only said one sentence. "If you smell jasmine, but there are no flowers, don't go out at night." I smiled wryly, but that night I couldn't laugh anymore.
My name is Anwar, a freelance journalist in Kuala Lumpur. My job makes me travel a lot, write a lot, and witness many strange things. But those things can all be explained by logic. My aunt, Mak Ja, lived alone in Kampung Sungai Merah village for decades. She never got married, had no children, and made a living by picking medicinal herbs and delivering babies for women in the village. People said she had yin fate, meaning she often encountered things that no one else could see. I had heard it, but I didn't pay attention. She died suddenly. No illness, no accident. It was simply that morning, people saw her sitting motionless in front of the door, eyes wide open, still holding an unlit incense stick. When I returned, the house was empty. No one dared to sleep there, they said. The yin energy was heavy. But I had no choice. The nearest hotel was more than 20 kilometers away, and it was about to rain. I stayed in that house. The first night, I heard the wind whistling through the tin roof mixed with something like a woman's sobbing. I stepped out onto the porch, looked around. No one, no wind, no people. But the scent of jasmine was much stronger than in the afternoon. I told myself it was just a cat or an owl. I went into the house, closed the door, turned on the nightlight and tried not to pay attention to the crying. But then, around 3 in the morning, I woke up with a start. Not because of the noise, but because the room was unusually cold, even though I had turned off the fan that night. I pulled the blanket up, but for some reason, my skin got goosebumps. It felt like someone was staring at me from the end of the bed. I turned on the light. Nothing. But the window curtain was gently swaying, even though there was no wind. I walked over and lifted the curtain. In front of the yard, about 10 meters away, was the banana tree that my aunt had planted. Under the tree, I saw a white shadow, a figure standing motionless. I rubbed my eyes. When I looked again, there was nothing. I closed the door tightly, scolding myself for being suspicious, but as I turned to leave, I distinctly heard the sound of fingernails lightly scratching the glass, long, slow, as if someone wanted me to know they were there. I stood frozen for a few seconds, then suddenly opened the window and flung it open. No one. But on the window frame, there were clearly 3 long, deep, blood-red scratches, brand new. I began to believe that something was lurking around this house, and it had no intention of leaving. I couldn't sleep that night. I sat in the living room until morning, clutching the flashlight and the small knife I'd found in the kitchen. That was the first night, and not the last. Every night after that, the crying came again, clearer, closer. The scent of jasmine was so thick it was suffocating. The third day, I noticed something strange. The back floor was always wet in the morning, even though the windows were closed. There were footprints on the wood floor, small, bare, and muddy. That night, I put my recorder on the table to try to catch any sound. I covered myself with the blanket and lay still, no lights, no movement. Exactly 2:14 a.m. The back door creaked open, even though I'd locked it. The sound of light footsteps, then the sound of fingernails dragging on the wall, slowly moving toward the bedroom. I held my breath, my heart pounding like a drum. The flashlight in my hand trembled. The bedroom door was pushed open. A pale white hand reached in, skinny, with long, dark nails. Then, that face appeared from the darkness. The skin was as pale as a corpse, the eyes were red and white, the mouth was torn to the ears, bleeding, and the long, matted hair covered half of the face. It looked straight at me, and it smiled, a cold, twisted, and gleeful smile. I screamed, turned on the flashlight, the light swept over. No one. But where the door was still open, there was a limp arm lying on the floor, curled and cold.
I don't remember how I got out of that house. I only remember running out into the street, barefoot, covered in scratches, repeating over and over, "It saw me, it saw me." The villagers took me to the infirmary. They didn't ask much. Maybe they already knew. Before leaving the village, an old man came to see me. He was silent for a long time, then put in my hand a small bag wrapped in red cloth. Inside was a handful of dried garlic, a piece of broken mirror, and a piece of paper with shaky writing. "Never look it in the eye again." I left Kampung Sungai Merah that same day, but from then until now, every night at exactly 2:14 a.m., I would wake up with a start. The room was always cold, and always, I smelled jasmine. No one else could smell it. No one else heard the crying. But I know it hasn't left. It's been following me. And tonight, I hear scratching at my door again.